Ladies and gentlemen, in this room today, there are dreams that have been delayed, prayers that seem unanswered, and hearts heavy with questions. But I stand before you with a bold declaration: a miracle from God is about to happen in your life. Yes, not someday, not for someone else, but for you right here, right now. Let us begin by understanding the nature of miracles. A miracle is not just a random event, it is a deliberate act of divine intervention. It is heaven reaching down into earth to reveal God's power and purpose. Too often we limit our expectations to what we can see, touch, or calculate. But miracles are the language of God. They operate in realms beyond human understanding. When you surrender your limitations to the limitless God, the impossible becomes possible. Now here is the challenge. Are you ready to receive this miracle? Preparation is not about being perfect. It's about aligning yourself with God's will. It requires clearing out doubt, bitterness, and fear. It means creating room in your life for the extraordinary to take place. Think of it this way: if you were expecting an honored guest, you would clean your home, prepare a feast, and make space for their arrival. The same is true for a miracle. Prepare your heart, your mind, and your spirit to embrace the supernatural. But preparation alone is not enough. Miracles are activated by faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. Faith dares to believe in the promise, even when the problem looms large. Remember, faith does not ignore reality. It acknowledges reality, but refuses to let reality dictate destiny. When you step out in faith, you create an opening for God's power to manifest. Finally, let us talk about expectation. The greatest tragedy is not that miracles are rare, it is that people stop expecting them. Expectation is the womb of manifestation. When you live in hope, you align yourself with God's timing. You don't need to know how or when. Your role is to trust that it is coming. Speak life over your situation, declare the promises of God, and walk as if the miracle is already on its way. Ladies and gentlemen, miracles are not a thing of the past. They are alive and active today. The same God who parted the sea, healed the sick, and raised the dead is moving in your life right now. Lift your eyes, lift your heart, and get ready, because a miracle from God is about to happen in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, as we delve into the profound concept of miracles, I invite you to expand your understanding of what it truly means when heaven touches earth. A miracle is not merely an extraordinary event that defies logic. It is the undeniable evidence of God's hand moving in the fabric of human existence. It is His declaration that He is present, involved, and fully capable of rewriting the narrative of our lives. Miracles are not confined to biblical stories of old. They are alive and accessible today, ready to manifest wherever faith dares to call upon the power of the divine. Consider the vastness of the Creator's intention. A miracle is more than a response to our need. It is a revelation of God's character. It showcases His nature as the ultimate source of power, love, and wisdom. When God performs a miracle, it is as if He pulls back the veil that separates the natural from the supernatural, allowing us to glimpse His glory. It is His way of reminding us that no matter how dire the circumstances, He holds the ultimate authority. He is not bound by time, space, or human limitations. He specializes in transforming the impossible into the inevitable. Yet, how often do we fail to recognize the miracles unfolding in our midst? Sometimes we miss them because they don't align with our expectations or come in ways we imagine. We look for thunderous signs and forget that God often works in the whisper. We expect grand gestures and overlook the quiet, transformative moments that change the trajectory of our lives. Miracles are not always about splitting seas or raising the dead. Sometimes they are found in the restoration of a broken relationship, the peace that surpasses all understanding, or the provision that arrives just in time. Let me remind you, miracles are not for the deserving, but for the believing. They do not come because of human merit, but because of divine grace. This truth should both humble and embolden us. Humble us because it reminds us that we cannot earn God's intervention. Embolden us because it reassures us that nothing we face is too insignificant or too monumental for Him to handle. God's miracles are not bound by our worthiness, but by His willingness to step into our stories. And so I urge you to expand your vision. Stop confining the miraculous to the boundaries of your logic or the size of your faith. God is not limited by your understanding. He is only limited by your willingness to believe. When you begin to see miracles not as rare occurrences, but as the very nature of God revealed, your perspective shifts. You no longer view your challenges as insurmountable, but as opportunities for God to demonstrate His power. The truth is, the nature of miracles is rooted in God's unwavering desire to draw us closer to Him. Every miracle carries a message, a divine invitation to trust Him more, to know Him deeper, and to experience His love in ways that transform not just our situations, but our very souls. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you of a truth that is often overlooked. The greatest miracles are not random acts of divine intervention, but deliberate encounters with a prepared life. Preparation is the soil in which miracles take root. Without preparation, even the most extraordinary blessing can fall by the wayside, missed or misunderstood. Imagine receiving a gift so magnificent that you have no room to contain it, no tools to use it, and no understanding of its purpose. Preparation is not just about readiness, it is about alignment. It is about positioning yourself in such a way that when the miracle comes, you can embrace it fully and steward it wisely. Preparation begins with a shift in perspective. Too often we focus solely on the external, believing that if we can fix our circumstances, the miracle will arrive. But miracles don't respond to circumstances, they respond to faith and alignment. This means the real preparation starts within you. It requires taking inventory of your heart and asking yourself, am I truly ready for what I am asking God to do? Do you have the capacity to hold the blessing you are praying for? If not, this is the moment to begin stretching, growing, and expanding. To prepare for a miracle is to let go of the clutter that occupies your life. We carry so much baggage, fear, doubt, bitterness, and unresolved pain that there is no space left for God's blessing. Let me put it plainly, you cannot receive a miracle if your hands and heart are already full of things that don't serve you. Preparation is an act of surrender. It's about releasing what holds you back so that you can grasp what lies ahead. And let me tell you, the release is not always easy. It may require forgiving someone who hurt you, letting go of a plan that isn't working, or trusting God with a situation you've been trying to control. But in every act of surrender, you create room for the extraordinary. Preparation also demands that you cultivate a spirit of expectation. It's one thing to pray for a miracle, it's another thing entirely to live as if the miracle is already on its way. What would you do differently if you truly believed that God's blessing was imminent? Would you wake up with greater purpose? Would you invest in your dreams with more conviction? Would you treat people with more kindness, knowing that the breakthrough is near? When you prepare for a miracle, you don't just sit idly by waiting for something to happen, you act in faith. Speak in faith and move in faith, creating an atmosphere where miracles can thrive. Finally, preparation calls for discipline. There is no shortcut to readiness. Just as an athlete trains for a race or a musician practices for a performance, you must commit to the process. Pray with intention. Study God's promises with diligence. Surround yourself with voices that uplift and encourage you. And above all, persevere. The waiting period is not wasted time, it is sacred ground where God shapes you into the person who can handle the miracle He is preparing to deliver. Ladies and gentlemen, the miracle you're waiting for is not delayed, it is being prepared for you even as you prepare for it. Let your life become a vessel ready to receive the fullness of God's blessing. Faith, my friends, is not merely an abstract concept or a quiet hope hidden in the shadows of uncertainty. Faith is the living, breathing force that connects the natural to the supernatural, the seen to the unseen. It is the bridge between human impossibility and divine possibility. Faith dares to dream when circumstances scream otherwise. It stands firm when the ground beneath seems to crumble. And it declares, even though I cannot see it now, I believe it is already done. Consider this: every great miracle recorded in history or scripture began with faith. It was faith that caused a woman who had suffered for 12 years to press through a crowd, convinced that touching the hem of a garment would bring her healing. It was faith that made a blind man cry out, "Son of David, have mercy on me," even when others told him to be silent. These individuals had no evidence to cling to, no logical assurance of the outcome. But they had something far more powerful, an unshakable belief in the ability of God to intervene and transform their circumstances. Faith is not passive, it is active. It is not wishful thinking, but a confident expectation. It calls you to action even when the odds are against you. Faith demands that you step into the unknown, trusting that God has already prepared a way. Think about it. When Peter stepped out of the boat to walk on water, he didn't wait for the storm to cease. He didn't demand that the waves calm down before taking his first step. His faith was in the word of Jesus, and that was enough. He acted before he saw the proof, and the miracle unfolded as he moved forward. Now, let me tell you something. Critical faith does not deny reality. It doesn't pretend the struggle isn't real or the challenge isn't daunting. Faith simply refuses to let reality have the final word. Sees beyond the mountain to the promise on the other side. It chooses to trust in God's power over the limitations of human understanding. Faith says, I see the facts, but I know the truth. And the truth is that nothing is impossible with God. When faith takes root in your heart, it begins to transform the way you think, speak, and act. Your words shift from doubt to declaration. Your thoughts align with the promises of God rather than the problems in front of you. You begin to walk in a manner that anticipates the miracle, even when it hasn't yet materialized. This is not delusion, it is preparation. It is the recognition that faith is the currency of heaven, and when you operate in faith, you transact with the divine. Faith often requires you to stand firm in the face of delay. It's easy to believe when the answer comes quickly, but what happens when the waiting stretches on? What happens when the miracle seems distant or even impossible? This is where faith is tested and refined. It is in the waiting that your trust in God's timing is solidified. Faith doesn't crumble under the weight of waiting, it grows stronger. It declares, even if it takes longer than I thought, even if I cannot see the way, I will trust, because I know that God is faithful to fulfill His promises. Faith, my friends, is not just about what you believe, it's about who you believe in. It's about anchoring your trust in the unchanging character of God. His power is limitless, His wisdom is unfathomable, and His love is unwavering. Faith places the outcome in His hands, knowing that He is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think. When you operate in faith, you align yourself with the very heartbeat of heaven, and that is where miracles begin to flow. Let me remind you, it's not the size of your faith that matters most, but the size of the God in whom your faith rests. Even faith as small as a mustard seed has the power to move mountains because it connects you to the one who created those mountains. So, no matter how small or fragile your faith feels today, hold on to it, nurture it. Speak life into it. And watch as God turns your faith into the catalyst for the miraculous. Living in expectation is more than a passive state of waiting. It is an active declaration of faith. It is the mindset that believes wholeheartedly in the promises of God, even when the evidence around you suggests otherwise. To live in expectation is to carry a spirit of anticipation, a readiness for the miraculous to break forth in your life. It is the audacity to wake up every morning with the conviction that today could be the day everything changes. This isn't wishful thinking, it's a spiritual posture rooted in trust, anchored in hope, and driven by faith. Imagine a farmer who plants seeds in the field. He doesn't sit idly by doubting whether they will sprout. No, he waters them, nurtures them, and checks for growth every single day. Why? Because he expects a harvest. He doesn't know the exact moment the first shoot will break through the soil, but his actions reflect his belief that the harvest is inevitable. In the same way, living in expectation means aligning your actions with your belief that God's miracle is already on its way. It means speaking life over your situation, praising Him in advance, and preparing as though the breakthrough has already arrived. But let's be honest, expectation can be challenging, especially when delays and disappointments come. It's easy to let doubt creep in when days turn into weeks and weeks into months. Yet, it is in these moments that living in expectation becomes a spiritual discipline. Expectation is not dictated by circumstances, it's anchored in the character of God. You see, God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with ours. What seems like a delay to us is often divine preparation. The waiting period is not wasted. It's where God refines us, strengthens us, and ensures that when the miracle comes, we are ready to receive it. To live in expectation is also to guard your heart and mind. The world around you will often try to discourage your faith. Voices will rise to tell you it's impossible, that you should give up, or that nothing will change. But living in expectation requires silencing those voices and tuning into the promises of God. His word declares that He will do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ask or think. Remind yourself daily of who He is and what He has done. Let testimonies of His goodness fuel your faith. Every step you take in expectation declares to heaven and earth that you trust the promise more than the problem. It's about walking into every situation with your head held high, knowing that God is already working behind the scenes. It's speaking as if the miracle has already happened, praising as though the breakthrough has already been delivered. This kind of faith pleases God. It says, I trust you even when I don't understand. I believe in you even when I don't see the outcome. Expectation is the womb where miracles are born. It sets the atmosphere for God to move. When you live in expectation, you are not just waiting, you are preparing, declaring, and celebrating in advance. This is the kind of posture that shifts the heavens and draws the miraculous into your life. Living in expectation is not a burden, it's a privilege. It's the honor of trusting a God who has never failed and never will. When you live in this state, you are ready for the extraordinary. Ladies and gentlemen, as we stand on the brink of divine possibilities, let me remind you of this profound truth. God is always faithful. His power is limitless, His timing is perfect, and His love for you is unwavering. A miracle is not just a distant hope, it is a living promise, and that promise is on its way to you. Today you are being called to a higher level of faith, to prepare yourself with expectation and to walk boldly as if the miracle has already come. Do not let doubt steal your joy or delay rob you of your trust. Instead, hold firmly to the word of God, which assures us that what he has spoken will come to pass. Your miracle is not about your worthiness, it's about his grace. It's not about your limitations, it's about his power. So lift your head, strengthen your heart, and walk in anticipation. Speak life over your situation, take steps of faith, and celebrate as though heaven has already answered. Because when you live in expectation, you align yourself with the God of miracles, and that alignment will transform your life. A miracle from God is about to happen in your life. Be ready, be willing. Be expectant. And watch as the extraordinary unfolds. Thank you and God bless you.